Hi everyone, welcome to the Not Too Shabby channel. This is Debbie from Project 39, and today I'm going to show you how to make a colorful Mother's Day card. We're going to be using the stamp and die set of the month for March 2023. I'm going to be using this stamp set 3 different ways, so see if you can identify the 3 different ways I used it. The first way is I am going to be using an embossing stamp pad and clear embossing powder. I take 3 of the flower stamps and I just stamp it all over the page. I am doing my best not to overlap any of the flowers. So some are going to come off of the edge, but I'm basically just going to fill the page in with the stamps. Then I sprinkle the clear embossing powder all over the page and heat set it. At that point, I'm going to grab my distress inks, and I'm using 4 different colors. I'm using mustard seed, picked raspberry, carved pumpkin, and twisted citron. I love these colors. They're nice and bright. It sort of reminds me of a tie-dye shirt. But if you wanted to do something a little more muted, feel free to change the colors. You can change the whole look of this card just by changing your colors. So pick out 2, 3, or 4 colors to use. I apply the ink in sections on the paper. You know, some are sort of a round little blob and some are going to be triangular, and I just have 3 or 4 sections of each of the colors and just let them commingle. I just like touching the edge. So I've got yellow and I'm going to put a little orange against the edge of that until it's just covered with color. I set the ink with my heat tool and then I move on. Okay, so here I'm cutting the pieces. Now the card itself is 3.5 by 7, so you're going to basically cut a 7 by 7 square in the center. And then I cut down the decorated paper about 3/16 less than the outside of the card, center it on there, burnish it real well, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so these are going to be the layers for the inside. So I have 6 by 1.5, 5 by 1.5, and 4 by 1. You can have them shorter. They don't have to be 1.5 inches tall. They could be taller or shorter, but make sure they're 6 inches, 5 inches, and 4 inches. And they were just scraps left over. So I'm going to score the 6 by 1.5 at 1.5, at 3, and at 4.5. And then I will take the 5 inch by 1.5 and score at 1 1/4, 1.5, 3 3/4. And then the 4 by 1 I will score at 1, 2, and 3. Fold and burnish these 3 pieces. Okay, now let's put them inside the card. So I'm going to just dry fit that biggest one first. Then the second one is going to go inside it just a little bit, maybe 1/4 inch inside that. And then the third one will go on the top. But let's take that larger one and turn it over and add glue to the back, just the 2 tabs on the back, not the ones that are going to be facing forward. And then you're going to make sure that you line it up perfectly with the center of the card. If for some reason it overlaps, just cut it down a little bit. Doesn't matter what it looks like in the back, it's the front that is important. So I'll just line that up and then do the next smallest one, putting it in about 1/4 inch inside. Line up the center fold to make sure it lines up with the center fold of the card. I open the card a little bit just so I can scoot it in. And then burnish that real well. And then we'll take the smallest one, add glue to it, line it up with the center. Isn't the back of that pretty? I wish that was the front, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, we're going to cover it up. All right, burnish it real well, open and fold it, and then let's move on. Okay, so yes, this is the second way I'm using this stamp set. I am just taking the distress ink, putting it right onto my stamp and stamping on the paper. It doesn't matter where we place it here because I'm going to use the die to cut these out. But I'm basically putting the green down on the stems and then the color on the flowers. trying to keep the tulips with the pink, the crocuses with orange, and then the hyacinths with the pink and orange. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, but that's how I'm playing around with it. So go ahead and add ink, stamp, and then we're going to die cut it all. All right, I am stamping again with the embossing ink and putting it onto some white paper, but this time instead of using clear embossing powder, I am using white embossing powder. All right, and as we watch this process, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've been paper crafting for quite a while. I mostly make mini albums, but I do love to color and play with stamps and watch the magic of heat embossing. I mean, who doesn't? I live and travel in my RV, so I have lots of fun as I travel. I craft my way across the US. So I'd love if you went to Project 39 mini albums and subscribed and watch more paper crafting videos. Okay, so in the final part of this card, I am taking some of the distress ink, putting it on my surface, and adding some water to it and taking a brush and just painting using the distress ink. It's really nice with the white outline. It's a very painterly look. You can shade and highlight with the different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and spend a little time and do this. You can see better in the photographs at the end what this looks like. It's hard to tell from watching this process. And when I'm all done, I take the dies and cut these out individually. I have 3 of the tulips, 1 of the hyacinths, and I end up using 1 of the crocus. And I also stamp Happy Mother's Day using the white embossing powder. I use a circle punch that out and do a white punch just a 1/4 of an inch bigger. But I do that all off camera so you don't see it, but you'll see it in the end. Then I take my ink, and this time I'm going directly onto my paper. I want a real saturated color. So I'm just putting it on, covering the paper with the ink, and then I will spritz it with water, let it commingle, and then dry it. I layer this up by splattering more color on, adding some more with the stamp pad, and just, again, making sure the color is saturated. Some of the color that I splatter on, I dry with the heat gun, and some I wipe up with a paper towel. So just play around with it until I get a look that I'm happy with. I find the section I like best and cut it down to 3 5/16 by 6 13/16. And then I layer up the flowers. I just figure out the look I like best, put it down in the lower right hand side, and there is the Happy Mother's Day that I popped up on a circle and put on the corner of the card. Now the fun part is adding the flowers to those layers. Now you have to make sure they don't go over the measurement, so you can't have anything bigger than 1.5 inches on the bottom. So you'll find I will put up what I can and then grab some scissors and cut them down. I'll take a leaf from here, cut the flower stem in half, and do whatever I need to do to make sure it fits. And then the final part of this is I grab an envelope for a slimline card, and I think that's 9 inches, but in any case I cut it down to make sure it's going to fit. I stamp a couple stamps on the bottom left hand side. I use an extra stamp just to sort of mask it so I can add that final tulip. And here is the final card. This is what I made using the Not Too Shabby Stamp and Die of the month for March 2023. It's really bright and colorful. Again, you could use different colors if you wanted to, and open it up and you get a whole bouquet of flowers. I'll add a little piece of white cardstock inside so we can put the sentiment and give it to Mom that way. And we have the matching envelope. So that is the project for March 2023. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to go to my channel, Project 39 Mini Albums, and check out other things I've made. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.